Evelyn used to think that wisdom meant always having the right answer and always speaking up when she knew better. But then life taught her a funny little trick. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is pretend you don't know a thing. For the time her daughter-in-law casually asked, "So Mom, what's in your will?" or when her grandson insisted on teaching her how to use her phone. Moments like these taught Evelyn that playing dumb isn't about deception. It's about strategy, about keeping your peace, and sometimes about keeping control. But knowing when to play dumb, that's where true wisdom lies. Today we're diving into two powerful situations where playing dumb is not just an option, but the best move you can make. And the first, it's when someone is fishing for information you have no intention of giving. 1. The power of strategic ignorance. Evelyn wasn't born yesterday. She had raised kids, managed a household, handled finances, and lived long enough to know how people operate. And yet there were moments when she found herself smiling politely and pretending not to notice the obvious. Why? Because wisdom isn't just about knowing, it's about knowing when not to show it. There's a fine line between being well-informed and being a human Google search for everyone around you. The older Evelyn got, the more she realized that people didn't always ask questions to learn. They asked to pry, to judge, or to maneuver a conversation in a certain direction. And sometimes, the best way to hold on to your peace was to play dumb. That realization didn't come overnight. It happened through small moments, like the time she accidentally overheard two younger women whispering about her at a family gathering. She's still living alone. That's not safe at her age. Do you think she really understands her finances, or does someone help her? She could have turned around and corrected them. She could have explained that she was more independent than ever, that she managed her own finances just fine. "Thank you very much." But instead, she simply smiled to herself and took another sip of her tea. Because sometimes, what people think about you is none of your business. 2. When someone is fishing for information, it always starts innocently enough. A casual question, a tilted head, a friendly smile. "So, Evelyn, have you thought about what you're doing with the house?" There it was. The question was disguised as curiosity, but loaded with intent. Her daughter-in-law, Jane, wasn't just asking for fun, she was fishing. Evelyn knew that money, inheritance, and property brought out all sorts of strange behaviors in people. And while she trusted her family, she also knew that discussing personal finances before it was necessary could open doors she didn't want opened. So, what did she do? She played dumb. "Oh, I haven't given it much thought," she said with a shrug. "One day at a time, you know." Was that true? Not entirely. She had a solid plan, but just because she knew her next move didn't mean she had to announce it like a public service bulletin. Playing dumb doesn't mean being dishonest. It means choosing what to share and when. And if someone keeps pressing, a simple, "Oh, I'll think about that later," is all you need to shut the door without slamming it. 3. When gossip knocks, don't answer it. Always amazed Evelyn how some people had an endless appetite for gossip. It wasn't just in the beauty salon or at church. It was at family gatherings, neighborhood events, and then casual phone calls. "Did you hear about Carol and her new boyfriend? He's 10 years younger. I saw Mary's grandson at the grocery store, and let's just say he didn't look very employed." Evelyn had two choices. She could engage, adding fuel to the conversation, or she could do what she'd learned over the years, act like she didn't know a thing. "Oh really? I hadn't heard that." Simple, short, no engagement. Because here's the secret, when people realize you're not a willing audience for gossip, they stop bringing it to you. The next time someone starts spilling the latest scandal, try this: act blissfully unaware. A polite nod, a vague smile, and a change of subject work wonders. And if someone says, "Oh come on Evelyn, you must have noticed," just give them a knowing little chuckle and say, "Oh, I don't keep up with those things." Because in the end, the smartest people don't need to prove they're smart. They just need to know when to sit back, smile, and let the world do its thing. 4. When correcting someone isn't worth it. Evelyn had spent years believing that if you knew the truth, You had an obligation to share it. After all, wasn't it a kindness to correct someone when they were wrong? But one evening, while out to dinner with her longtime friend Betty, she learned a valuable lesson. Not every battle is worth fighting, and not every fact needs to be set straight. Betty had a habit of misremembering things. That night, over a bowl of soup, she launched into a story about an old vacation they had taken together years ago. Remember that trip to Florida? We stayed in that little beach house with the green shutters, and we met that lovely couple from Canada. Evelyn did remember that trip, but the house had blue shutters, and the couple was from New York. She felt the words rise in her throat, ready to correct Betty, ready to set the record straight. But then she caught herself. What difference did it make? Would correcting her make the memory any sweeter? Would it change the way they laughed and reminisced? No, all it would do was derail the conversation and make Betty feel embarrassed. So instead, Evelyn smiled and said, "Oh, what a trip that was." Because here's the truth, not every wrong detail needs a right answer. From that day forward, Evelyn let the little things go. Because sometimes, the best response isn't actually, "That's not quite right." It's simply, "That was a wonderful time, wasn't it?" 5. When letting someone feel smart strengthens the relationship. Evelyn had always been good with technology. She might have grown up in a world of rotary phones and handwritten letters, but that didn't mean she couldn't handle a smartphone. Her grandson, Ryan, however, was convinced that Grandma needed a tech tutor. "Let me show you how to FaceTime, Grandma," he said one afternoon, grabbing her phone. Now, Evelyn had been FaceTiming for years. She had video calls with her book club every Sunday, chatted with her niece in California, and even sent voice memos to her friends when texting felt too tedious. But Ryan's excitement was adorable. He genuinely wanted to help. She could have said, "Oh, sweetheart, I know how to do that." Instead, she let him explain. She let him walk her through the steps, nodding along as if it were all brand new information. Why? Because sometimes playing dumb isn't about protecting your peace, it's about protecting someone else's confidence. Evelyn knew something that took her years to learn. Being right isn't always the goal. Sometimes letting someone believe they're teaching you is a gift, one that makes them feel capable, needed, and appreciated. So when Ryan finished his demonstration, she clapped her hands together and said, "Wow, you're such a good teacher. I'll have to practice this." And that moment, that smile on his face, it was worth every second of playing along. Turns out that being clueless is a secret superpower. Who knew? Sometimes the best move isn't proving you're right, it's sipping your tea, nodding along, and letting the world do its thing. So tell me, when was the last time you played dumb to keep your peace? Spill the tea, or don't, in the comments.